Question 72. The Reformative Approach to Punishment. Introduction. The evolution of punishment and the rise of reformative thought. The concept of punishment has evolved with civilization. In early societies, it was largely retributive, based on revenge, or deterrent, based on fear. However, as society became more humane and moral consciousness developed, a new outlook emerged, the reformative or rehabilitative theory of punishment. This approach rests on the belief that crime is not merely a moral failure but a social and psychological one, and that the purpose of punishment should be to reform the criminal, not to destroy him. In simple terms, the reformative theory argues that the true aim of punishment is to change the offender's attitude and behavior, so that he may re-enter society as a responsible, law-abiding citizen. 1. Meaning of the reformative theory of punishment. The reformative theory, also called the rehabilitative theory, holds that the main objective of punishment should be reformation of the offender through moral, psychological, and social correction rather than inflicting physical or emotional suffering. According to this theory, every criminal is capable of improvement and should be given the opportunity and means to reform. The criminal is seen not as an enemy of society but as a member who has strayed from the path of righteousness due to circumstances, ignorance, or social conditions. Hence, punishment should be curative, not cruel, corrective, not vindictive. 2. Philosophical basis of the reformative approach. The reformative theory is rooted in humanitarianism and moral idealism. It emerged in the 18th and 19th centuries alongside liberal humanist thought and the rise of modern criminology. Philosophical ideas underlying it include faith in human goodness. Every person has a moral core that can be awakened. Moral responsibility of the state. The state's duty is not merely to punish but to reclaim the offender. Crime as social failure. Crime reflects the failure of social institutions like education, family, and economy. Law and morality must align. Punishment should uphold human dignity, not degrade it. Thinkers such as Cesare Beccaria, John Howard, and Jeremy Bentham initiated the movement for humane treatment of prisoners, while modern reformers emphasized education, therapy, and rehabilitation. 3. Main principles of the reformative theory. The reformative approach rests on the following principles. I. Punishment as moral and social cure. Punishment should aim to awaken the conscience of the offender and help him realize his mistake. 2. Crime as a disease, not sin. Just as a doctor treats a patient, the state should treat a criminal, not condemn him. 3. Faith in human improvement. Even habitual offenders can change if guided, educated, and supported. 4. Rehabilitation instead of retribution. The offender should be reintegrated into society rather than being permanently excluded or destroyed. Use of psychological and educational methods. Reformation can be achieved through counseling, vocational training, spiritual education, and social reintegration programs. 6. Protection of human dignity. Punishment must respect the inherent worth of the individual. Degrading or torturous punishments are morally unjustifiable. 4. Instruments and methods of reformation. The reformative approach emphasizes positive and rehabilitative measures rather than harsh penalties. These include education and literacy programs. Illiteracy and ignorance often lead to crime. Educating prisoners enhances moral and intellectual awareness. Example: many modern prisons run literacy classes, open universities, and skill training workshops. 2. Moral and spiritual instruction. Religious and ethical education helps offenders rediscover moral values. Example: in Indian prisons, programs by spiritual organizations like Art of Living or ISKCON promote inner reform. 3. Vocational and skill training. Providing work and trade skills helps offenders earn livelihood after release. Example: Tihar Jail in Delhi operates industries, example, bakery, carpentry, that both occupy inmates productively and prepare them for reintegration. 4. Psychological counseling and therapy. Criminal behavior often arises from emotional or psychological trauma. Counseling can correct such maladjustments. Example: prison psychologists and social workers help inmates deal with anger, guilt, or addiction. Probation and parole systems. Instead of long imprisonment, offenders are released under supervision to test their ability to live as responsible citizens. Example: probation officers monitor behavior and provide guidance to first-time offenders. 6. Open prisons. Inmates are given semi-freedom, allowed to work outside under limited supervision, thus restoring self-respect and social trust. Example: open prisons in Rajasthan, India. Allow prisoners to live with their families and work in agriculture. 7. Community participation and aftercare. Society must accept reformed offenders back through community service, job opportunities, and counseling. 5 examples of the reformative approach in practice. India. The Indian penal system has increasingly incorporated reformative elements. Article 21 of the Constitution, right to life and dignity, requires humane treatment of prisoners. The Prisons Act of 1894, as amended, and modern prison reforms stress education, skill building, and rehabilitation. The Tihar Jail reforms under Kiran Bedi, 1990s, are a landmark example. Introducing yoga, meditation, work, and education as tools of reform. 2. United Kingdom. Programs like open prisons, parole, and rehabilitation workshops aim at moral and social recovery. 3. United States. Juvenile offenders are placed in reformatory schools where they receive education and psychological treatment instead of harsh punishment. 4. Scandinavian countries. Norway's prisons, example, Halden Prison, focus on comfort, trust, and counseling rather than punishment, producing very low recidivism, repeat crime rates. 6. Philosophical justification and moral value. The reformative theory derives moral strength from humanitarian ethics and modern psychology. It argues that no one is born a criminal, society's conditions shape behavior. Harsh punishment hardens the criminal instead of curing him. Reformation benefits both the individual and society, reducing future crime. Thus, the goal of justice should be transformation, not retaliation. 7. Merits of the reformative theory. Humanitarian and ethical. It respects human dignity and the potential for moral recovery. 2. Reduces recidivism. Rehabilitation reduces repeat offenses by addressing root causes. 3. Social utility. Reformed individuals become productive citizens rather than burdens on society. 4. Psychological soundness. It recognizes that crime often arises from mental, emotional, or social maladjustment. V. Harmonizes law and morality. It aligns justice with compassion, making the law morally defensible. Example: a drug addict who undergoes therapy instead of imprisonment is more likely to reform and less likely to relapse. 8. Demerits and criticisms. While morally noble, the reformative approach faces several practical challenges. I. Not suitable for all criminals. Hardened or violent criminals may not respond to reformative measures. 2. Risk of leniency. Too much sympathy may weaken deterrence and undermine respect for law. 3. Difficulty in measuring reformation. It is hard to determine when an offender is truly reformed. 4. Expensive and resource-intensive. Educational, therapeutic, and training programs require funds and trained personnel. V. Public opinion resistance. Society often demands retribution rather than rehabilitation for serious crimes. Despite these limitations, reformative justice is increasingly recognized as the most humane and effective form of punishment in the long run. 9. Comparison with other theories, explained in context. Retributive theory focuses on punishment for past wrongs, an eye for an eye. Reformative theory focuses on future good, the offender's correction. Deterrent theory uses fear to prevent crime. Reformative uses moral and social guidance. Preventive theory physically restrains criminals. Reformative spiritually and morally transforms them. Thus, the reformative approach seeks to balance justice with mercy, law with humanity, and punishment with rehabilitation. 10. Relevance in modern criminal justice. In contemporary times, reformative justice is the guiding principle of criminal law in most democratic societies. The goal is not to destroy the offender but to rebuild character and restore social harmony. Example: India's Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld this philosophy, as in Mohad Gyasuddin v. State of Andhra Pradesh, 1977, where Justice Krishna Iyer emphasized that reformation and rehabilitation of prisoners are central to the modern penological goal. Thus, modern criminal systems adopt a mixed approach, where deterrence protects society but reformation heals it. Summary for quick understanding. The reformative theory of punishment holds that the purpose of punishment is to reform, rehabilitate, and reintegrate the offender. It views crime as a social and psychological failure rather than a sin deserving revenge. It uses education, therapy, counseling, probation, and open prisons to achieve moral reformation. While not applicable to all offenders, it represents the most humane and progressive philosophy of justice, one that transforms criminals into citizens and vengeance into compassion. Quick revision notes. Meaning: punishment aims to reform the offender. Nature: humanitarian and moral. Methods: education, vocational training, counseling, parole, open prisons. Examples: Tihar jail reforms, probation systems, juvenile homes. Merits: humane, reduces crime, socially useful. Demerits: expensive, not effective for all. Judicial support: Mohad Gyasuddin v. State of AP, 1977. Core principle: hate the sin, not the sinner. One-line questions and answers for revision. 1. What is the reformative theory of punishment? A theory that aims to reform the offender rather than inflict suffering. 2. What is the philosophical basis of this theory? Faith in human goodness and capacity for change. 3. Who are key proponents? Beccaria, Bentham, John Howard. 4. What methods does it use? Education, therapy, probation, open prisons. 5. What is its main assumption? Every criminal is capable of moral reformation. 6. What is the goal of reformation? To reintegrate the offender into society as a good citizen. 7. Which Indian case supports the reformative approach? Mohat. Ghiyasuddin v. State of AP, 1977. 8. Which famous Indian prison implemented this theory successfully? Tihar Jail under Kiran Bedi. 9. What is the key moral principle? Punish to reform, not to revenge. 10. What is the reformative motto? Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. Final connection. The reformative theory of punishment is the moral conscience of modern justice. It reminds the state that the goal of punishment is not vengeance but transformation, not destruction but redemption. By reforming one criminal, society not only prevents future crime but also restores faith in humanity itself, proving that justice tempered with mercy is the truest form of civilization.